Can you tell me what's the show about?
So the show came about because I was in Paris and went to visit the gardens and workshop of Monet just outside of Paris in Giverny. And I noticed the shapes of the water lilies and how the reflections were in the pond and the weeping willows, and thought you could abstract those. So I came home, that was in 2017, so I came home and started working on some pieces based on that. When I went back in 2018, there was actually an exhibit on American abstract artists who had taken Monet's water lilies and abstracted them. So the works I had started, I came home again in May of 2018 and finished those works, inspired by what the American artists had done.
So how many pieces do you have in the show?
So I have 14 pieces, and you can see the patterns repeating, mainly from the water lilies, but some of it is based on the reflections of the ponds and the weeping willow leaves.
Do you take pictures of the lilies and then work on the abstraction, or you did it from memory?
Well, I did take hundreds of pictures of the gardens and his workshop. However, I find when you're doing abstracts, it's just easier to go on memory, because then you don't get forced into, oh, a water lily should look like this, or a lily pad should look like this. You have those memories, and you basically know the shape of what you want to do. And by not using photos, you're also free to use whatever colors you want.
Talking about the colors, how do you choose? I see some are like dark, some are like. How do you choose the colors? How they based on?
Yeah, so I basically have a color palette that I like, which is anything with blue or black or gray, so that kind of color palette. So I start with that and then build up layer upon layer and see what happens.
And these are acrylics or oils?
They're acrylics, and then there's some graphite and grease pencil, but most of it is acrylic.
So you like to do like a mix media in your paintings, or just for this?
Yeah, I do like being able to do lines and shapes as part of the project. And sometimes, like in some of the paintings, you can actually see them, and in other paintings, they just get painted over.
Do you think you are going to explore more the idea of the lilies and the reflections, stop there and move into something else?
So this is the first time I've ever done a body of work. So normally I just paint one abstract or one landscape and then move on to do the next abstract or the next landscape. So this is the first time I actually have 14 paintings that follow a theme. So I have decided to go to Istanbul for 6 weeks, leaving Christmas Day, to see what I can do based on Istanbul in the winter, to try to do another series.
So now tell me, what makes you start working with series?
I think it's just easier to discipline yourself when you have a concept behind works. So I think, I've only been painting for not quite 10 years. And it's very challenging when you do one painting and then try to do the next one that's, because I'm not a landscape painter or a portrait painter, so I don't have subjects. It's just basically imagination doing abstracts. So it was challenging, but it seemed to be easier to work on this set of works. So I want to try another one and see if that holds true. And if it doesn't hold true, I'll just go back to painting one of something.
Maybe you will find lots of stuff in Istanbul that will make not only one, but many series.
Many
series. So I see that you are showing with 2 more artists here. How you decided to show with those 2 artists?
Yep. So the other 2 artists are Laurent Jacques and Caleb Speller. And Caleb's work here is mostly clay work. And it was the shapes and the colors that seemed to go well with the work that I in particular was doing. So we included Caleb. And he also did 3 collage pieces based on the opioid crisis. So we thought that was timely and interesting to include. And then Lawrence's work, he's exploring colors and mainly line patterns, which when you look at them seem to be landscapes or waves, but in fact he often talks about stages of life. So the colors and the layers are phases that you might go through in a lifetime. So he spends hours and hours just building up different colors in his patterns, and you can often see shadows and shapes emerging from those.
About the show here, how long it's going to be here, and after here, what happens?
So we opened last Wednesday, and the show is up until September 20th. And then this is the home of the new Victoria Arts Council. So once our show comes down, there's another group show coming in, and then regular programming starts. Thank you.